Wow, what a heist! And I should know. I also stole the Declaration of Independence. Don't tell the feds. Although technically Nick Cage did pay for it, so I don't know why the government was so upset. You know, this reminds me of another heist. The one in the Homestuck Intermission, which coincidentally is what we're going to be talking about today. Yes, after Act 3, Hussey decided to unwind by going in a slightly different direction for a while. Making Homestuck proved to be more complex and labor-intensive than any of the previous MSPAs. Act 4 was going to open in a big way, and Hussey needed a little time to prepare for it. Not only that, but he also had to do some chores such as server maintenance. So the time was ripe for something a little more traditional. For the final time in MSPA history, we would get a Province Lu style interlude with fan commands and wacky antics. The result would be the Intermission starring the Midnight Crew, finally bringing that would-be adventure to life. A lot of people skipped this section. They made a terrible mistake. While it may seem like a small Midnight Crew side adventure would have nothing to do with the central plot, the Intermission actually sets up pretty much the rest of the comic. There is nothing irrelevant when it comes to Homestuck. Everything comes back at some point. Well, at least in the first half of the story anyway. Now, unlike those heathens who like to skip to the trolls or whatever, I was pretty pumped when I first got to this part of the story. The Midnight Crew looked like the coolest shit whenever it was shown throughout the rest of the comic. So, as you know, Hussey could have made a full Midnight Crew adventure instead of Homestuck, which is why he likes plastering its characters throughout the story. But I guess it's now a little confusing, because he already put in a Spade Slick-like character named Jack Noir in Act 3, yet here we are with the actual Spade Slick. So here's the premise. The Midnight Crew is breaking into the mansion of their rivals, the Felt. You may remember them from Midnight Crew Act 1031. They recently knocked over one of Spade Slick's favorite casinos, so he's out for revenge. The Felt is led by someone named Lord English, who is said to be indestructible. He's rumored to be killable only through a number of glitches and exploits in space-time. And to top it all off, nobody knows what he looks like. Now, this sounds similar to Lord British from Ultima, but apparently this was a coincidence on Hussey's part. Anyway, the Midnight Crew's mission is to plunder Lord English's vault located in the mansion. To do this, they're gonna have to kill a bunch of green guys. And destroy a bunch of clocks too. You see, the Felt is all pool and time travel themed. Each member has a different time travel ability. Let's go through the roster. 1. Itchy. He can go fast. 2. Doze. He can go slow. 3. Trace. He can follow people's past trails, aka where they've been. 4. Clover. He is very lucky. Okay, that's not really a time travel power. 5. Finn. He follows people's future trails, aka where they're going. 6. Die. He has a voodoo doll that can jump between timelines. If you stick a pin in the doll representing someone, you will jump to a timeline where they're dead. 7. Crowbar. He has a crowbar. 9. Stitch. He's the gang's tailor. 10. Sawbuck. If you wound him, he and you will be sent to a random point in the timeline. 11. Matchsticks. We don't actually find out what he does during the intermission. 12. Eggs. He has an egg timer that he uses to travel through time. 13. Biscuits. He often teams up with eggs and he has a time machine too. His is an oven. It travels forward in time at a rate of 1 second per second. Which is to say, Biscuits just sits in it and does nothing until it's time to pop out. 14. Quarters. Like Matchsticks, we also don't find out what he does during the intermission. And number 15. Cans. He's a big guy for you. Crowbar, Matchsticks, and Quarters were all slain before the intermission started. I guess the idea is symbolic of pocketing some pool balls right on the break. Okay, what about number 8? Well, that's Snowman, and Spade Slick isn't gonna kill her. So yeah, everyone has a really punny name based off their number and or their power. Hussey goes over all the puns in the book commentary, but it would take too long if I did that myself. So here's a chart. Got it all? Good. Well, now that introductions are over, let's get to the antics. The first thing that Spade Slick does is build a fort with some clocks. Actually, no, he just destroys them. Then he uncovers a photo of Jeff Foxworthy. Finally, something in Homestuck that makes sense. Though notably, Spade Slick doesn't recognize the species or even knows what a mustache is. Right away, this should strike you as odd. So Spade Slick is commanded to play 52 pickup. However, to do that he'd need a deck of cards, but all he has is his war chest. So yes, Object Duality is back from Problem Sleuth. So is the inventory screen, just with the weapon slots and item slots switched. Luckily, Spade Slick can just keep things in his war chest. It's like how you store cards in a deck. That's sort of the idea. Oh look, he's got the barcode that Wayward Vagabond had. So the, oh I get it alarm in your head must be going off. This is just Jack Noir in the future or something. Except, no, Spade Slick doesn't recognize humans while Jack does. So Spades pulls out a backup hat which has some candy inside. It's like when Problem Sleuth kept candy corn in his hat. Spades prefers licorice Scotty dogs though. SS. Hide inside your war chest. You cannot hide properly inside the chest because you cannot close it while you were inside. Instead, you momentarily pretend it is a really cool automobile that commands the fear and respect of larcenous adversaries everywhere. Beep beep beep! All aboard the idiot wagon! Yep, this is the good shit. Spades then boots up the Crosby top. He ponders if the guy on this computer is the same species as Jeff Foxworthy. But due to Jeff's mustache, he concludes that they're just a differing species within the same genus. Okay, yeah, this should probably send some more alarm bells in your head. Spade Slick logs onto MS Paint Adventures. And look, there's Homestuck. The logic is that in the kids' universe, they're currently running MSPA as the Midnight Crew. While in the Midnight Crew's universe, they're currently running MSPA as Homestuck. Not only that, but the Midnight Crew comic in the kids' universe actually had a Homestuck intermission, just like how Homestuck itself now has a Midnight Crew intermission. Yeah, that's not confusing. You don't know why you're wasting time on this website. It is for little children who poop hard in their baby-ass diapers. Also, you don't understand what the hell is going on or who all these characters are. It's all a lot of nonsense. You know what? I agree. Spades then destroys his own laptop screen to own the felt or something. He picks up his spade key, which is also his card for the rules of blackjack. It too has a barcode on the back. Now let's go over the heist plan. Clubs Deuce and Diamonds Droog are out to kill every felt member that they can find. Hearts Boxcars has gone down to the vault to start cracking it. Spades cleans up and gets to work. There are some clocks already destroyed with some blood on the ground. Time travel shenanigans are surely responsible. We try to be Hearts Boxcars, but we're now Clubs Deuce. I guess you could say that we simply have to play the cards that were dealt. Or you could say that Hussey just wanted to be an asshole. CD is interrogating Doze, which is a complete waste of effort. This is of course because Doze is slowing down time for himself. CD decides to swap hats, accomplishing very little. Then he pulls out his battle drobe. You know, as opposed to a wardrobe. Yeah, this is the stupidest play on words in Homestuck by far. Itchy swaps everyone's hats around even further, which causes Clubs Deuce to stomp on Slick's hat. Luckily, all of Itchy's running around makes him real susceptible to being tripped. Here we get our first kill of the intermission, not counting the felt members who are already dead of course. Thank GPI that Spade Slick keeps a backup hat, exactly for situations such as this one. Anyway, here comes Die. But that doesn't matter, it's time to be Diamonds Droog, which is to say, Clubs Deuce. He's gotta find his backup hat, but he can't remember which card represents it. This is actually a remnant of an idea that Hussey had for the Midnight Crew. According to the book commentary, the idea was that each member would have a different stat of forgetfulness and forgiveness. Spade Slick never forgives. Hearts Boxcars never forgets, which means he holds grudges. Clubs Deuce always forgets, because he's a dumb little idiot. And Diamonds Droog always forgives, but in an ironic meaning of the word. Like how in Problem Sleuth, diplomacy just meant you shoot people. Then of course we have Anonymous, who never forgives or forgets, but I don't think he's in this story. Anyway, this idea never really went anywhere, other than Clubs Deuce being forgetful. CD throws some cards at Doze, which turns into a bomb in pornography. For some reason, porno just keeps coming up in MS Paint Adventures. Jailbreak introduced a magazine called Black Inches, then it was in Problem Sleuth, and now it makes a grand return here. But in Homestuck, it seems to be about licorice instead of bodacious dudes though. Clubs Deuce is into some weird kinks. Anyway, Black Inches fits into a pattern throughout the story of naming something using a color and a unit of distance. Yes, this sounds very specific, but it comes up more often than you'd think. CD still needs his backup hat, however. First he picks up a random card and ends up slapping a bomb on his head. This actually makes sense though. As the explosives expert of the group, bombs are always on his mind. But no, he still needs his actual hat. It's either the Jack of Diamonds or the King of Spades. However, he can't stand around Jack King off all day, so he correctly picks his hat. Now it's time to be Hearts Boxcars. Just kidding, we're Diamonds Droog. DD has a Brawl Liam. In it, he keeps multiple backup clothes. DD is without a doubt the actual smart one of the group. I love Spade Slick, but he's rather rash and doesn't tend to think things through. DD has the foresight to store his Swedish fish in his backup hat, a strategy which Spade Slick only recently adopted as well. DD gets punched, and Trace, in the future, is the culprit. Once again, he likes to mess with people's past trails. But we see CD is ready for him. That's because the fatal flaw is that you know where Trace will eventually be. So DD radios in some support from our favorite idiot. Anyway, DD's on the hunt for whoever left this blood trail. He either went up or down the stairs. DD trusts his gut and goes up. Or ascends, if you will. Meanwhile, CD ties up Doze with a Stretch Armstrong doll. I have literally no idea how he got one of those. In the commentary, Hussey is equally clueless. This actually makes less sense than Jeff Foxworthy's photo showing up, if you can believe that. CD then tries to force Doze into his battle drobe with his bull penis cane. He flips the fuck out at apparently owning a bull penis cane. Hussey actually had a similar reaction when he found out what that cane was. And no, that's not just a funny name. They actually do make canes out of bull penises. Apparently. Meanwhile, in another timeline, Itchy cheats at cards with Dai. So Dai decides to jump to a timeline where he's dead. That of course brings us to this predicament. SS knocks him out with his cast iron horse hitcher. Dai quickly reaches for a new pin on his voodoo doll, and jumps to a timeline where Spades is dead. Unfortunately, Spade Slick made this town. Now hold up. Take a gander at this scenery. In particular, the strange colored sand and the green and pink moons. This is clearly not Earth, but it's probably something that most people reading at this moment disregard. At least, I did when I first read it. I mean, the Midnight Crew Intermission presents itself as something completely unrelated to the main storyline, so why should I care if it takes place in some weird world? Anyway, we gotta catch up with Hearts Boxcars. As the team's expert safecracker, he's already made his way to Lord English's safe. Since it's too big to pry from the wall, he does the next best thing, which is to, do a silly dance. To actually open the safe, HB deduces that you will probably have to alter the flow of time itself, so he decides to just get CD to blow it up. He deploys his Wrath Tub. Hussey, in the commentary, for no reason at all, decided to roast a forum user who wanted it to be called a punch box. He stated, "Sorry, random guy whose identity is lost to the sands of time and never mattered at all." Wow, what an asshole. HB's choice of candy are wax lips. I always thought that was a dumb idea for a candy. The idea is that you wear them like some sort of goofy idiot before you actually eat them. Something tells me that Hussey probably wouldn't benefit from this though. I, HB, peruse Red Cheeks magazine. Just glancing at it gives you palpitations. Literature for avid cardio aficionados such as yourself. Those burgeoning red humps. That mischievous little tail. The snug, welcoming cleft. The saucy imagery is hard to beat. Harder than what you beat inside your chest right now. Your heart is what you're beating. You beat it to Red Cheeks magazine pretty regularly, you'd say. Yeah, I don't think we're topping this page. Anyway, HB radios for CD's help. But uh-oh, biscuits and eggs are here. In the future, Trace stops following DD and starts following CD. DD finds the room where the blood trail originates. It looks like some sort of altercation went down. DD notices a tooth on the ground, and figures out what happened. He formulates a plan, and I guess you could say that something's brewing at D&D. Finn has followed his future trail here to mess with him. But when he does this, he tells you where he's been. So, DD post-emptively strikes and pumps him full of lead. This of course leads to the situation of DD following a blood trail caused by Finn following his future trail caused by DD following the blood trail. You know, that whole paradox thing. Now, if you're thinking that these past and future trails seem familiar, they're actually inspired by Donnie Darko. That movie makes just as much sense as Homestuck does. Alright, we're Spade Slick again. Dai has rematerialized from the other timeline, and SS makes him live up to his name. Now Spades has the voodoo doll. He thinks it might be a great tool to help him kill Lord English. Maybe if that actually happened. But for now, he'll use it to keep track of dead Fault members. Wow, the future that we saw earlier is now the present. Trace is screwing with past DD. Isn't the natural course of time great? CD plops down Doze, enacting a plan thought up by DD. Of course, CD forgets that he's supposed to go help HB with the safe now. The plan? To wait for Trace to show up in the future, then blow him and Doze up with a bomb hidden under Doze's hat. Thus, about half the Felt is dead, so we're making good progress. Finn starts following CD's future trail in the past. He wants to shoot him, but he reconsiders when he sees that CD's carrying C4. CD, of course, gets distracted by a nice clock, but then decides to start following Finn's blood trail again. Finn, of course, is following CD's future trail, which, yes, is another paradox. Meanwhile, HB wastes exactly 4 hours dealing with biscuits and eggs. It seems from the narration that he may dislike time travel, but it's a little unclear. Clover appeared on the scene at the strike of 4 and has been watching the tomfoolery for 13 minutes. He'd be willing to help for the cheap price of solving time riddles. Now we switch to Stitch. He's in charge of repairing Lord English's Cairo overcoat, which of course is tied to the fabric of space-time. Biscuits and eggs are causing a lot of unstable time loops, wreaking havoc on the coat. I love this quote. Any gang does well to have an in-house doctor on hand. But if you deal in time travel, you better have a damn good tailor too. You know, in Problem Sleuth, Mobster Kingpin's ship was called the Chicago Overcoat, which is mobster slang for a coffin. So then, what is the significance of a Cairo overcoat? The plot thickens. HB calls an SS for support. Spade says he'll get DD and CD down there once they're done with Finn and Stitch. Finn has come to Stitch for help. He warns him that CD is about to come in with a bomb. Stitch can heal members of the Felt by patching up effigies of them. Finn's is of course in tatters. So he dies before he can be patched up. Everybody out of the goddamn way. You've got a head full of bomb, a fist full of penis, and a head full of empty. Hussey argues that this is the best quote in the story, and it's certainly a contender. Stitch helpfully explains that C4 is a stable explosive and won't detonate with gunfire. Unfortunately, DD has the drop on him. Similarly, HB drops his porn on biscuits and eggs, accomplishing, nothing. For some reason, SS pulls Crowbar's pin, jumping him to a timeline where he's alive. Despite being the 7th Felt member, he's actually the 3rd in command. Spades has appeared in some sort of firefight. He feels tempted to insert Snowman's pin, but isn't crazy enough to do so. Speaking of the devil, Snowman makes her grand appearance in the Intermission's only flash, which is called SI == symbol. The tune here is 3 in the Morning by Clark Powell. I saw a YouTube comment that said this piece's genre is cool jazz. I mean, I guess it is pretty cool. So here she is, Snowman. Everyone stops any gunplay when she's around. If you kill her, you'll destroy the universe. Hold still, Slick, she says. Everyone seems shocked that there's dialogue in this flash animation. No matter, she continues. Something in your eye. Okay, that's... oh. Yeah, that looks a little painful. If you couldn't tell, Slick and Snowman hate each other. Wow, it sure was worth it coming to this timeline for no reason. But at the very least, Slick now has a free cigarette holder. It doubles as a lance, which SS tosses at Sawbuck. This of course means that he and Spades jump to a random point in the timeline, which is the recent past when the other Felt members were setting up cover for the upcoming battle. SS immediately kills Stitch, at least in this timeline. SS attacks Crowbar, but his King of Spades card gets deflected into Sawbuck. This causes them to jump to the far past, and we see their strange planet again. Notably, we see past Spade Slick wrapped in Shroud, similar to Wayward Vagabond and the other exiles on Earth. Except, he's not yet Spade Slick, he is the Scurrilous Straggler. And now you might be thinking, oh shit, oh fuck, maybe this intermission might actually tie into the rest of the story. What happens next is a somewhat complicated series of time travel antics. SS can't kill Crowbar because he needs him alive in order to return to the right timeline. Nor can he kill Sawbuck because he needs him to return to the right time. Spadeslick can at least injure Crowbar and take his crowbar. Then he injures Sawbuck to return to the future, and he solicits HB's wrath tub to stick his kidnapping victims into. He returns his smut though, since Spadeslick only gets off to Terrier Fancy magazine. Yeah, I guess he's into bestiality. What? SS returns to the original timeline, which of course means there's now an alive Crowbar in a timeline defined by his death, as well as another Sawbuck. Crowbar tries to attack, but the bullets are of course deflected into Sawbuck. Everyone then appears in front of the other Sawbuck. Spade Slick tricks Crowbar and the second Sawbuck into attacking each other. They of course jump to another time. SS attacks the first one again, and now they appear in front of his past self, before he went on this incredibly pointless adventure. Past Spade Slick attempts to ask about future Spade Slick's eye, but his policy of stabbing first and asking questions later prevents what no doubt would have been a paradox. Not that he didn't just make one by kidnapping/killing everyone who was supposed to be in that firefight that now didn't happen in another timeline that also didn't happen. But then we see Spades do all that shit again anyway. Luckily, future Spade Slick gets to do stuff that we haven't seen yet. He arrives in the future, which is even more bloody. He quickly deduces what happened by looking at a destroyed clock, and then implements a scheme. SS uses Sawbuck to jump to the past. He strangles Sawbuck to knock him out, and then waits for the exact moment when the clock gets destroyed. Crowbar and the other Sawbuck arrive, and SS kills everyone. Well, that was a fun little time travel interlude. Now, here's one of the best gags in the intermission. Dee Dee has convinced Stitch to make effigies of the Midnight Crew. This will allow him to patch them up if they get injured. Spades needs his eye fixed, but oops, his sprite was flipped the wrong way. He needs the stitching to be undone and then face the right direction to make it work. It's a clever little meta joke. Once he's healed up, SS then makes an ass out of himself in front of Snowman. What a goober. Now it's time to start wrapping things up. That of course means dealing with biscuits and eggs. Spade Slick arrives on the scene, charging in with a lance, just like this one panel from Problem Sleuth. I only mention that because this page is linked to it. You will get the reference. So SS starts whacking the egg timer. Crowbar's crowbar can negate time travel artifacts and cancel their effects on the timeline by destroying them. So we're left with 1 biscuits and 1 eggs. I, HB, attempt to eat eggs. Your attempt was an overwhelming success. Yeah, this is, quite the page. I love simple solutions to big problems. Biscuits absconds into his oven. SS tries to destroy it, but it's really just a regular ass oven and doesn't actually travel through time in the first place. Now this page I quite like. For one thing, I accidentally bookmarked it the first time I read the story, so it was there every time I opened up MS Paint Adventures. I long wondered about this page's significance until I realized I was just an idiot. But it's also nice to see the entire Midnight Crew together, at least for this brief scene. It's like they're an actual gang. Anyway, CD just puts some dynamite in the oven and wheels it off to the side to blow up later. I love simple solutions to big problems. Spade Slick attempts to open the safe with a crowbar, but Clover warns that would cause a lot of bad luck. Then he starts doing a jig. You don't want to know what the jig means. I, DD, ask Clover for the ultimate riddle. You ask Clover to open the safe. Wait, that's what the ultimate riddle is? The combination to Lord English's safe? Huh. Unfortunately, you can't threaten Clover with a gun. He is far too lucky for you to be able to shoot him. So Dee Dee just harasses him with a newspaper. Actually, it's his pornography collection, The Grey Ladies. The Grey Lady is actually a nickname for the New York Times, a fact that no one who's not a boomer knows. I only know it because Hussey mentions it in the commentary, explaining what the joke here is supposed to be. Also, there are humans in this porn, which, makes no sense. All of a sudden, Cans plows through the wall Kool-Aid Man style. He knocks Dee Dee in the next week, where it turns out he's grocery shopping. You're a bit confused, having no memory of the previous week. You have no idea what is on your grocery list. Are you out of milk? What sort of produce do you need to stock up on? It is all a little overwhelming. And to make things worse, the selection has too many prices and vowels. I always love absurdly low stakes. Oh, you're facing the apocalypse? Nah, just grocery shopping. Here's another Problem Sleuth reference. HB does the torso flail battle technique. Unfortunately, Cans knocks him into the Spirited Horse Calendar. He'll be stuck farming horses for a whole year. Spade Slick finally cuts to the chase and pries open the safe. Unfortunately, he's thrust into a very bad timeline where only he and Snowman are left alive. However, that of course doesn't stop her from being a huge bitch, blah blah. Not even the rest of the Midnight Crew survived. But the safe is open. Interestingly, the treasure is locked behind a door with a spade on it. Finally, a use for the spade key. Except oops, there's no keyhole, but a barcode scanner. No matter, the rules for Blackjack card has a barcode on it. But oops again, it's Snowman up to no good. She has a whip, coincidentally named the Black Inches, which she uses to rip Spade's entire arm off in order to retrieve her cigarette holder. She then locks him in the vault. Spade Slick is now missing an arm and an eye, a set of injuries that should be familiar to you. SS has to flip his sprite to use the barcode on his arm with the scanner. See, that wasn't just a stupid joke. Opening the door reveals... oh shit, oh fuck! It's the Spurb Spirograph! Further down we can see the pendant of Professor Mayonaka. Now, who is that exactly? Well, Mayonaka was actually the guy who created the Midnight Crew in the first place. If you recall, they originally appeared in a series of non-canonical problem sleuth commands done for donations. Mayonaka, of course, was the donator. The Midnight Crew originated from his D&D campaign at the time, where they were also a gang of mobsters. Mayonaka came up with the group's name himself, which he described as just sounding cool. Which it is. I guess he just really liked nighttime, because Mayonaka is Japanese for midnight as well. Hussey, of course, really made the characters his own though. But it's important to know where the idea came from in the first place. Mayonaka, leveraging himself as the Midnight Crew guy, decided to make a felt fan adventure, which he could claim was semi-canon, although this was a rather controversial claim. After all, it's not like he had any insider knowledge or anything. In hindsight, you can tell that he had really no idea what Hussey was planning. But I did read the story once, and I thought it was decent, even though it was quickly abandoned. Unfortunately, most of its panels have been lost to time. Anyway, Professor Mayonaka would have been the Midnight Crew's answer to Lord English. The failed adventure stopped right when he was introduced. The character, of course, never actually materialized in Homestuck itself though. The only thing that remains is his pendant on this page. It was put there at the request of Mayonaka himself. Anyway, we finally arrived at the intermission's ending, which changes everything. This guy again. Been a long time. There he is! Carcinogeneticist! Spade Slick is his exile! But who cares about that? It's the trolls! They were aliens all along! Wow, I frankly am shocked at this information. I can't believe they don't look like this. But they played Spurb too! Wow! This intermission wasn't a colossal waste of time. Oh wait, it was. Anyway, end intermission. The intermission is amazing. People who skip it are stupid. Yes, I know that's insulting, but it's also the truth. If there are 3 things that I like, then they're time travel, mob stories, and wacky antics. I also really love the idea of a card-based gang going against a pool-based gang. Not to mention that the Midnight Crew are actually from a race of chess people. The tabletop game theming just keeps happening. The intermission is perfect for me specifically. It's actually my favorite section in the whole story. It makes me wish that it was a full MS Paint adventure. You know, something that's about 1,000 pages rather than 200. I know that this was Hussey's cope about passing over the Midnight Crew for his next comic, but you know, he could've just did that after Homestuck. Instead, he kinda just inserts it into the ongoing story. But he did a good job integrating it, because the intermission is the foundation that the rest of the story hinges on. It may not seem like it, but it is. Let's count the ways. First, we get characterization of the kid's Jack Noir by following Spade Slick around. Homestuck loves exploring a character by showing an alternate counterpart. Through that, we establish a baseline, which will come into play later when the primary character starts deviating from it. Spade Slick and Jack Noir are cut from the same Spurb NPC template, but their actions are very different. We've yet to see what the kid's Jack does, but I can say for now that his life is completely different from Spade's. Another character that's introduced here is, of course, Lord English. He may be more significant later on. Actually, the felt in general is pretty relevant. Especially Snowman. I mean, geez, you kill her and end the universe? I wonder how that will come into play. Oh yeah, this is also the first time that we actually see a troll and the troll planet. The trolls, might be a bit of a popular addition to the story. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Time travel will be a big theme in Homestuck from now on. Crazy time shenanigans get their start right here. You could almost say it was like a primer for it. The point is, I hope you like figuring out complicated timelines. In conclusion, if you don't read the intermission, then you are missing out. Might as well call it the intermissing. Not only is it entertaining, which is why I imagine you're reading Homestuck to begin with, but it also secretly sets up the rest of the plot. Though I'm probably just yelling at clouds at this point. I doubt people are really skipping the intermission anymore. I mean, who's even getting into Homestuck now? Probably people who actually read the entire story. On the topic of the art, a lot of it here are just recolored images from Google. This sort of thing isn't unique to the Intermission, of course, but it comprises most of the backgrounds and objects here, making it pretty notable in my opinion. I find it interesting how seamlessly the real-life photos blend in with the MS Paint art style. I mean, it's obviously noticeable, but it feels just right, and it's something you just stop thinking about after a while. Often I wonder what exactly the rationale is of drawing something versus swiping it from Google Images. I mean, it might just be laziness, but the effect it has on the art style gives Homestuck a rather unique look. Hussey's just good at tying it all together, I suppose. During the Intermission, there is one music album released. Fittingly, it was Midnight Crew Drawing Dead, which dropped on February 4th, 2010. Unlike the previous album releases, this one isn't part of the main volume series and is filled with mostly new music. Hussey had an idea early on to create albums for fake bands from the comic. You might have seen that poster of robots in Dave's wall. Well, that was supposed to be of a fake band called Crunk. They never got an album though. Instead, the Midnight Crew got that honor. Work had begun on the album in the summer of 2009, but the Intermission, of course, inspired the music team to finish it. They described the genre as dark jazz. Whether or not it's also cool remains to be seen. There's a lot of great tracks with this one. Toby Fox made a piece called Liquid Negro City. I don't know what that's about. He also made another tune called The Ballad of Jack Noir. Though the album version is instrumental, the original composition had lyrics.
Oh yeah, they call me Jack Noir. You might think that I'm the star, when really there's a dad who makes me glad I haven't had the pleasure, yes, to treasure this saturnine existence between these fenestrated walls.
Yep, that's Toby singing. Also, I didn't know noir wasn't 2 syllables, so the song is kind of ruined for me, ha ha ha. Okay, forget music. I know what you really want me to talk about. It's time to introduce Hussey's Formspring account. According to the Formspring archive, he launched his account during the Intermission. But what is Formspring, some of you might ask? Well, it was a website where you could do Q&As. Anyway, Hussey's Formspring responses could range from being dumb and funny to actually being pretty insightful. I highly recommend reading through them all. So let's take a look at a few of the early ones. Who do you think should be the next president of the United States? Dumb. If you could ask God one question, what would it be? No. What was the most interesting place you've traveled to? Stupid. Is bro gay? He's a fictional character. If you could have taken Problem Sleuth in a completely different direction, what would it have been? Marshmallow Peeps instead of candy corn. If you were stranded outside in space, and all you had was your partner Monkey Joe and 3 tennis shoes, what would you do to survive? I stopped reading at the comma. Would you consider making an Xbox Live Arcade game someday? Yes, but I need currency and clock ticks, of which I ain't got much of neither. Soon you'll be wearing my sword like a shish kebab. Seems like there are logical fallacies with your simile. God damn it, Hussey, you'll never succeed at insult sword fighting with a response like that. When was the last time you ate at Olive Garden? Best question yet. I think maybe 4 years ago. When I was there, I wasn't family, and they gave me my money back. Yeah, those are all pretty great. But here's a couple more interesting replies. What inspires the directions of your storytelling? Does music have any piece in it? Or do you outline things yourself with just your own ideas from the hammer space of your mind? Very many of the Flash pages have been seriously influenced by the music. And sometimes songs lead me to do Flash pages that I wasn't planning on doing in the first place. Most other sources of inspiration. Yeah, pretty much the hammer space thing. On average, how long does it take you to create a single Flash fight scene? For example, Dave's strife with his bro, from start to finish. Usually 1 day, but a pretty solid day. Okay, yeah, most of the questions and answers from when the Intermission was current are, beyond idiotic. Not too many serious ones. But we're just getting started with Formspring. We'll circle back around to it in future acts. Well, that's it for the Intermission. Up next is Act 4. And in the meantime, I'm going to play a little 52 pickup. Now, what I have here is the official Midnight Crew playing card deck. This is actually a pretty cool piece of merchandise. I mean, it makes perfect sense. So, let's play.
dark age and everlasting, I'll tear the sky ajar. Good night, everybody. My name is Jacko. My name is Spades. No, my name is Jack Noir.